Thank you, Daniel, for that very interesting introduction and also for the invite here to speak at this event. Looking at the audience present, it is indeed quite an honor to share with you our thoughts on where we think the challenges lie and where the industry is heading towards. As Daniel said, this is an international perspective. That is what I aim to provide in this presentation. It was interesting, Bernardo, when you outlined some of the challenges that we face, the mix of partnerships that we have, the private sector, the public sector, the labor, etc. And there are indeed quite a few examples that we can draw on from the international sector. I'd just like to outline very quickly the importance of the maritime sector before I dive into my presentation. To give you a context of the maritime sector, taking examples from other countries, the maritime sector is really very, very important for the country. It is an asset that will have a significant impact on the economy, and therefore it is in the interest of the economy to have extremely efficient ports and the wider maritime infrastructure. In the US, there was a labor strike for about 2 weeks, and this shaved off about 2% of the GDP from North America. So that tells you the significance and importance of these gateways, of the ports and the maritime sector, to make the economy competitive, to get our goods to the world and for the entire economy to be competitive in the wider market. As an economy, as a Chilean economy, we are competing with other economies to get our goods to the market and also getting the goods from foreign markets into our country at a competitive price. It is extremely important for Chile, more so because it is a long country rather than a circular country, and therefore maritime transport, being the most economic forms of transport, plays a very important role in Chile. So that is just a broad context of the importance of the sector. Let me dive very quickly into the new challenges, which is the theme of the presentation. Before I dive into the new challenges, perhaps I should introduce myself and who I represent. For those of you who don't know, Drewry is a maritime advisor and research company. We've been researching the industry for a very long time. We follow the industry on a day-to-day basis, and today I'm here to share with you our thoughts on the industry, the new challenges, and where we are heading towards. Bernardo, you outlined a very interesting point about the ships getting bigger, and that has been there for some time. So before we get into the new challenges, let us talk about the old challenges. Ships have been getting bigger, and in comparison, in context, it seems that the ports aren't getting bigger. The ports are more fixed assets. And therefore, this theme of bigger ships, smaller ports has been there for quite some time. And this, for private investors, this is having a significant impact over the years. If you look at, I think I can use a pointer. Yeah. If you look at this graph, what this tells us is we track a number of port-listed companies, and based on the results that they publish, what this tells us is that the average revenue that a port or a terminal company is charging their customers has been declining since 2014. And you can say that there's a consistent decline. So there's that pressure on companies to be able to increase their cost of or the pricing of the services that they offer. On the other hand, we can see that there is a lot of investment that is required in this graph, which is telling you that capacity is being added and needs to be added going forward. Of course, this is also having an impact on ports and terminal operators in terms of their operations. Bigger ships means bigger loads, and therefore they need more manpower, more peak loads to be able to handle those volumes. As an investor, what this means is this increased amount of capital required to invest in ports and terminals, pressure on pricing going forward, and therefore what this means is that the return expectations that the investors are having has declined significantly from about 12% to roughly about 8% now. So this is having an impact. So these are all the existing challenges that the sector faces anyways. Let us move on to what are the new challenges, which is the theme of this discussion. So this outlines the various challenges that the industry faces. What I will focus on today is talk about Industry 4.0, which is digitalization, automation, robots coming in, etc. What has happened in the past couple of years is, whilst investment in physical infrastructure remains critical to ports, you hear a lot more about digitalization, automation, advanced technologies, and this is gathering pace in 2018 and will continue to do so even in the maritime sector. Technology will both enable and will disrupt traditional supply chains. We have platform companies like Alibaba, like Amazon, who are currently providing or taking a stake at a claim, staking a claim to traditional stakeholder customers, shipping line customers who used to deal directly with shippers, consignees, or with freight forwarders. Companies like Alibaba, Amazon are coming in and taking a share of their customer revenue. Ports are also impacted and have started to look more closely at things beyond their traditional boundaries of simply moving goods within the port itself. There are a multitude of technologies, be it blockchain, be it cryptocurrency, be it cloud-based platforms. There is a significant change that Industry 4.0 is bringing about, and we all have a role to play. A number of these technologies promise to take off significant amount of, or save companies significant amount of costs. Going forward, we believe it is the processes where efficiencies will need to be found within the sector. It is not the assets. Ships have got bigger and bigger and bigger. We've exploited the economies of scale. We've come to the end of, perhaps the end of what we can achieve in terms of savings simply from upsizing our assets. And therefore, efficiency will be a key task going forward, where companies will need to find productivity and cost savings. The question is, so this is what we hear about. These are news articles taken from various publications. You hear about robots, you hear about robotic arms for twist-lock devices. You hear about drones being used for security within ports and terminals. You hear about drones being used to guide pilots within a port. You hear about drones removing garbage and trash from a waterway in a port and terminal. You hear a lot about blockchain, shipping companies getting into blockchain activity. And you hear a lot about Hyperloop and digitalization of operations. So the question is that this change that we see with digitalization coming forward is an inevitable change, and this will come sooner or later. The question is, how effectively can private and public companies come together to create a new and a secure, and I stress on the word secure, given the incident Musk had, security becomes clearly quite important with the digital infrastructure and how this is going to impact us going forward. What I would like to do, and what I have done, is formulated my thoughts in two parts. Firstly, there is the vision or the desire with what Industry 4.0 will achieve. And secondly, I will step back and say, where are we now and what challenges do we face with this Industry 4.0? In context of ports and terminals, Industry 4.0 is aiming to achieve the full integration of both physical and cyber systems. The people, the machines, the resources, they communicate with each other, interact with each other, and it becomes a completely autonomous operation. Data and communication is the backbone of Industry 4.0. Container terminals of the future will be able to interact with other equipment and operate on their own without any manual interference. And this will come as container terminals will seek to achieve lower costs and productivity improvements, given the pressure on pricing that they face. But terminals are only one part of the entire digital integration. If we look at the various ports, or the global ports, dare I say, PSA, Port of Hamburg, Algeciras, Port of Rotterdam, they all have a digital strategy going forward. They are all appearing to be entering an era to experiment with technologies in order to stay competitive. And if you look at the core driver here, or the desire, the motivation for ports and terminals, it is efficiency and productivity. That is what all ports and terminals are trying to achieve. Eventually, it is the entire supply chain that will get integrated back to back. It is not just ports and terminals. I talk about ports and terminals because I have a ports and terminals background. But it is the entire supply chain that will get integrated digitally. Industry 4.0 will reshape our industries. There are certainly some bottlenecks, there are challenges, there are complexities, interdependencies, culture, resources, etc. So this is what is the vision with Industry 4.0. Where are we now? Internet of Things, this has clearly taken a step up in our world today. We find terminal operators who are able to see the productivity of their terminals on their mobile phones, see what is happening at their terminals. We have shipping lines who can monitor their assets. Shipping lines have gone one step beyond, and they have said, as a customer, a beneficiary cargo owner, a shipper, or a consignee can monitor their equipment or their cargo remotely on their phone as well. So they've gone beyond being able to monitor it themselves to a position where their customers are able to do so directly without any interference from the company. The key things that this Internet of Things is quite an interesting concept. There are three things that the Internet brought with it. It made the availability of information, it made that free. Mobile devices and networks make global reach and continuous connectivity widely available. You don't have to be locally present to monitor what is your productivity. You have the joy of being on a holiday at a beach and still monitor the productivity of what's happening in your business. Cloud computing has then made the amount of information and data that we store infinite. There is no cap on how much data we can store and monitor. So there is a lot of visibility that is being offered both to business operators as well as the end customers in what is happening with their business. And this is an important step away from traditional concepts where relationships used to be really important and the shippers and consignees having a one-on-one personal relationship with ports and terminal operators. We then hear a lot about automation. So where are we with automation? This map shows various ports and terminals that are automated around the world. And some of these are fully automated, some of these are partially automated. The feedback that we get from ports and terminal operators currently is that there is a large diversion in the aspects of what technology desires to achieve and what we as an industry would like. As an industry, we are a very simple and basic industry. We compete on the basis of pricing. And therefore, whereas technology competes on the basis of offering the best megapixels that it can offer on a camera, it is the high end of technology. And that is where we believe that the gap lies between technology companies trying to automate and digitalize our sector as opposed to what we would like as a sector and what is commercially or economically viable. We believe that the industry is changing. We believe that the technology industry is listening to the stakeholders, and there are changes coming in. But we also hear from the technology companies that the ports and terminal operators, as their customers, see this as a playing field, and they would like to experiment with new versions of technology, new versions of automation, although there are already established platforms that are available that would achieve perhaps the same end goal. In the last 12 months, we have seen a marked upturn in interest in blockchain technology. And this is also quite an interesting concept with blockchain technology entering container logistics. There was a research that somebody had done before, another company, which said blockchain is once again not achieving the desired end goal. And we again believe that it is because the industry, and when I say industry, I mean the blockchain technology industry, does not understand the maritime industry in its full aspect. We believe that blockchain is not a fad. It is part of a supply chain innovation in some form. The question is, what form will it take? Historically, when blockchain came into the industry, what the technology industry desired to achieve was both visibility, efficiency, and they also tried to address the financial aspect wherein you could pay with digital currencies. We believe that is not, that we haven't reached that point as yet. However, if you look at some of the other maritime companies like Maersk, what they have said is we will offer productivity and efficiency. We are not too bothered about the financial aspect. You can still pay in the traditional way. However, we will make this a paperless trade. We will digitalize all our paperwork. We will offer visibility to our end customers. And I think that is a key change that will drive efficiency and productivity going forward. And that is also one aspect where digitalization and technology will be very quickly adapted. Of course, this is going to have an impact on the wider stakeholder group. This is going to have an impact on agents, etc. Less amount of paperwork to be filled. The World Economic Forum said improving communications and border administration using blockchain could generate an additional 1 trillion in global trade. That is a significant amount that can be achieved with this technology. This cost savings would be visible. We will look at the experiment that Maersk and the other companies are offering, and the results should be evident in a few years from now. So these are more immediate concepts. I would now like to move over to what is still perhaps at an experimental stage with regards to technological development in the industry. There is the Hyperloop. And DP World is the single biggest investor in the Hyperloop technology. This is looking to expedite the movement of containers from point A to point B. What is interesting with this technology is whilst they have different industries as their area of focus, passengers is not their core area. Their core area is shipping containers. This is their core area of focus. It diminishes as you go forward. Smaller packages is less important to them, and Hyperloop is more focused. DP World has invested a lot of money, and they are experimenting this Hyperloop technology in a number of areas around the world. 3D printing, of course, we've heard of 3D printing, and this was a vision to manufacture quality industrial spare parts on demand. What the Port of Rotterdam has done is they have established their own lab called the RAM Lab. And using the IBM technology, they have infused the various construction processes using 3D technology and actually developed a propeller that will be used on a ship that has been manufactured using 3D technology. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to the end of my discussion or the debate, food for thought. We believe that automation is necessary. We believe that technology will bring in disruptive changes. We need to think about how do we adopt this technology and how we can benefit from this technology. As humans, we are linear by nature. However, technology is not linear by nature. We saw that evidence in the growth in ship sizes. What we anticipated was ship sizes will grow in a linear fashion. They haven't. I will borrow the words from from Charles Darwin, who once said, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives. It is not the most intelligent of the species that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." So, ladies and gentlemen, technology is here to change. We will need to change our ways we do our business, and we will need to incorporate this into our businesses. The question is not if, the question is when. Thank you very much.